Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the best baseball card designs of 1994. Now, when I was doing the 1994 design reviews, or as I was heading into it, I knew that 94 wasn't exactly the halcyon year for card designs. It's that one weird year where it's like everybody was kind of muddled in the middle. But I did remember that there were a couple of designs that did stand out from the rest and were really quite strong. Well, that's what I remembered. And as I've been going through pulling these aside, I've been surprised at how there weren't as many hits as I expected. In fact, it's kind of weird how low the top end really is. I've already done hockey, and with hockey, I was pleasantly surprised at how much better the designs were than I anticipated. In the case of baseball, though, it's not quite as good because this is what's really weird for me. I like the hockey designs a lot better than I like the baseball designs. The baseball designs are kind of muddled in that middle area, even all the way out to the best card designs. Now, for me, I do think there's a top three. That's kind of where I have the list. It does have a clear top five, but the top three to me, I think, are really good designs. Not great, but really good. There are two others that are, pretty good. And then there are three others that kind of give a feel for how this whole year worked, because there is actually a middle section of cards that are all basically the same. They don't look the same, but you're going to have a tough time going through ordering them. It's going to be just kind of a big mess. And the cards that have emerged out onto this list are, well, some of them have barely made it onto the list and could easily slide away, especially the honorable mention that I'm starting with, which is Bowman's Best, which is not on this list because it's a good card. It's on this list because it's an impressive card. Literally, that's the only thing going for it. Because Bowman's Best was created specifically for one reason. It was Finest, only it was a fancier version of Finest. And the design that they came up with is only here because of how cool the ruby jewel-like quality of the red is. Or the blue. Either case, it's all about that and the little striations. The stone's kind of nice. The only thing that's not really great about this card is, or the only thing that's not strong about the card is the image of the player. To me, when I look at this card, it reminds me of when you get a picture frame and it has that model picture that's in the frame that usually is better than the actual picture you're going to be putting in, but the one that's in the frame has text on it because it's advertising. It has that general feel for this card where it looks to me like the company that actually printed Finest for Topps, like this was the demo model that they gave them to say, this is what we can make. And Topps went, cool, that's kind of cool. Let's just put a sticker on top of it. And they stuck a picture of a player on and said, here, make that. That's really what the card feels like. The design on the background, I'd love to say it would be better without the picture of the player, but it wouldn't. It'd be boring. As it is with the player, it is impressive, but well, it's still underwhelming. It's only on the list because it's impressive. That is it. Bowman's Best would get better, but just not here in this first year. Speaking of which, I also have Bowman as one of my honorable mentions, where in this case, I look at this card and I go, okay, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to frame a really good picture. And in a way, the frame around the card does look pretty, or does work pretty well, and it does look kind of good. But it's all about pretty well and kind of good, and because the big problem this card has is that first off, it looks like a subset. But more importantly, when you look at it on an individual basis, you go, okay, not the best idea, but they're kind of having fun with it. Until you start getting multiple cards next to each other, and then when you do that, all of those borders act as barriers. They're like a corner, like you're leaning against a wall. And there's a wall on one side, and then there's room on the other side. And that's what it looks like. And so when you go from one card to another, it's all stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. The cards don't have a design feel to it. They have this thing that kind of gets in the way. In a way, I think that Bowman has been getting better over the years, and by 1994, okay, it's better than what had been done before. I'll grant you that. But still, 94 was not the year they finally broke out and figured out how to do it. I will say that. Speaking of which, Upper Deck in 1994 hit a lull. At least they hit a lull in baseball. In football, I thought the card design was really strong. Hockey, I love it. Basketball, I think it's pretty strong. It's not, in none of these sports is 94 as good as 93. Well, maybe in hockey, but in the other three sports, it's not as good as 93. Okay, maybe. All right. For baseball and for basketball, the 93 design is better than 94. That is very clear. But in basketball, it's kind of, it's not because of the design of the card. In the case of baseball, that's exactly the problem. I actually like most of the pictures that they used in the baseball designs. I think that the pictures themselves are strong and they read well. The problem that the card has is that the design itself gets in the way, and it starts with the text on along the side for the team name, that bronze text, which is just kind of, I mean, it's free floating and it doesn't go with anything. When in 92-93, Upper Deck did this with basketball, where they had the gold text at the top. Not the greatest design in the world, but it actually kind of worked because of the balance. In this case, it's running along the side and it just doesn't make sense. It disrupts the picture. That's the problem. So there's that on one side, and then on the other side, they have that just terrible design. I look at it and I go, okay, I get what they're trying to do, and if it's your baby, if you've designed this, it looks amazing. And if you don't know any other design, you'd actually probably look at this and go, that's pretty good. The problem is they would follow up with an amazing design in football, the next release, and then when it got around to hockey and to basketball, still very strong. The baseball design here is just not strong. It's not a good design. It's really lacking. And basically this comes down to a really good picture that's held back by the card. That's not good, especially if we are ranking designs. So those are my honorable mentions, and I've talked a fair amount about them because, well, there's a lot to talk about how disappointing they are. Fortunately, for the top 5, I don't have as much to talk about because they are doing a whole lot better. And it starts with Stadium Club. Very shockingly for me, as I've been going through, I've been going, well, I don't know that I've ever noticed that 94 Stadium Club's actually not a bad card. It's all about the pictures. That's always what Stadium Club has been about. In 93, they had a lot of really good pictures. 94, I think they have a lot of better pictures. So the images are coming through better, but how well do they present the images? And here in baseball, I got to say, I was surprised last year when I opened a box of this and actually enjoyed it. Thought the cards looked pretty good. They're not great cards. These are cards that are never going to stand out in a display case. They're never going to stand out in your collection. They're never going to stand out in your mind. But when you look at the card, you go, that's actually pretty good. And it's unfortunate that we're at number 5. I have a card that is forgettable like that, but Stadium Club is. It does just enough to work. It does, but it also does just enough to keep from either failing or succeeding. It's right there in that middle of, yep, all right, well, if you've got all the other cards, this is definitely one that's worth adding to the collection, especially when the images are fantastic, which often does happen in this card set. I just wish that it was more distinct, more strong, and was good at the same time, which was asking a lot for Stadium Club. So hey, by 1994, you got to this point, that's actually reason for a party. Which brings me to Topps at number 4. And Topps is really kind of the same in a different way. Topps, the whole point was this is the basic general card. This is the standard card where if you're just going to get a normal basic card, this is it. And it's very successful at this. This is a card set, interestingly to me, where I collected the 93 set and the 94 set. One of them I collected Series 1 and Series 2. The other I collected just Series 1, I think. And I still can't remember which one was which. I can remember the 93 design better than I can remember the 94 design. And when I look at the 94, I look and go, oh, that's actually not that bad. That's pretty decent. The thing is, I always forget. I mean, I told you about the sets that I created. I remembered. I've just remembered that I put the sets together, but I don't remember anything of the process, the experience. I'm not even sure where I have the sets. They're that forgettable, especially with 1994. And it's a shame because when I look at the card, I want to like it. Because in many ways I do like it, but at the same time, I forget it instantly. That's the problem that this card has. It is way, 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 way too forgettable. So for Topps, it's a reward. It's an opportunity for excitement and celebration because they've risen all the way to this point of making a card that's this good. And they would have a ways to go until they had a card that could really hold up against the competition. The card here is a little bit too busy, but it does the things that it needs to do to still be a decent card. So I like it. I certainly do not love it, not in any way. But the top three, I very much like all of these. I still don't love them, but I think that they all are very successful. Starting at number 3 with extra bases. And this is the tall boy card set for baseball, as in literally the tall boy baseball card for the 20th century. There was one card that was made by Ultra Pro, but other than that, this is what we got. This is from the Fleer Game Day and Jam Session family. This is the baseball entry. And the beauty of these cards is that it gives a tremendous amount of real estate for some really up close and tight personal shots. And when you get those to work, it is a great card, like you can see with this set. I mean, you go through this set and the images are all really strong and very, very distinctive because of just of the nature of how the real estate for the images on the card are set up. But again, this is about design. And down at the bottom, I find it interesting that I look at the card and I want it to have foil on it, but I think the reason it succeeds is because it doesn't have foil. It has a nice stencil-like quality to it. Very delicate. It has a fairly good color tone. I guess that what I would wish for this card was that it had more of a metallic look to it. Because if it had that like 1990 Pro Set, or 1990 NBA Hoop, excuse me. If they had that, I think the card actually would have been a lot stronger and a lot more distinct. Because I want to have a little bit of a punch down at the bottom of the card because it's so far down. But it does work as a great grounding element and it's got the right colors. It does all the things it needs to do to be successful. And that's where we're at with number 3 is this is a card that finally has succeeded in being a perfectly nice card that I like. At number 2, I have what for me was the surprise of the list, which is Sportflix. And the reason is because I am working on the Sportflix video for 94-95 Sportflix right now. It's going to be actually the next video that I upload. And as I've been going through, I've been so surprised at how crisp and clear and strong these cards are. When you flip between the two images, it snaps right in place. There's almost no transition point between the two images. And that along with the richness of the colors and the darkness in the card make this card work as a normal card that just happens to flip images. The design element down at the bottom is fun and playful, but still quite strong. This is the card that is exactly what Sportflix should always have been. Why it took this long, I don't know, but at least they finally got here with this card set. So kudos to them for that. And to me, this is a really strong card the way it comes across. It's a rare occasion where I actually give it half credit for the Sportflix flip because of the fact that it's so crisp and so strong. But number 1 for me is probably the number 1 for everybody, which is Donruss. And this is interesting because Leaf's not even on this list with good reason, whereas Donruss is on this list for a very good reason. Donruss was trying to make its namesake brand really the standard bearer for the entire line. This was supposed to be the gold standard of card, really more in line with Pinnacle rather than with like Score or with Topps. But they were trying so hard to make the card work really well in looking nice and fancy that they ended up making a card better than the Leaf cards, which were supposed to be better. And when I look at this card, I go, see, now that is a card that's worthwhile. That is a really good card. I'm not going to go so far as to say great, but it's pretty close. And it's about all the delicate, intricate components that go into that plaque, and then just the right details around it, the right things around it, to make the whole card come into a really nice balance. And that's the thing about Donruss, is when I look at it, I go, wow, that is a design that absolutely works, draws me in, is memorable, it gets me wanting to collect the set, it does all the things that it's supposed to do. And really, at the end of the day, if I was going to have one card of a player for baseball in 1994, I would go with this card, with Donruss. That would be my default until I see what the card looks like, and then I may want to look around and see if there are, say, better images somewhere else. But the thing is that, to me, this is the gold standard for baseball. I really like the way that it looks, and it's going to be interesting to see how I line that up with the best card designs in the other sports. This one actually does have a strong opportunity to compete pretty close to the top. But that's my list of the best baseball card designs of 1994. Let me know in the comments below what changes you would make to the list. And definitely, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I definitely urge you to do so. Check out the other videos. I love doing these design reviews. I've been doing this for 3.5 years. So definitely check those out if you haven't had a chance. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.